All right, we're back talking golf at Prime Sports Network. That means Jared Smola is with me from Draft Sharks. How's it going, Jared?
Going good. Excited for Riviera week.
Yes, another big week of golf ahead of us. Another big field. The fields are pretty awesome now, thankfully. A lot of money. That'll do it to last week's field. I mean, we never had such a great field before. The leaderboard was pretty awesome as well. So, unfortunately, we didn't get any drama, though. And that's because Scheffler took control. Scheffler is one of those players that once he takes control and you head into the weekend, it's kind of hard to catch him. It just really is.
He did not make many mistakes that entire tournament. I mean, the one he made where he thought the door might be open on 16 there on Sunday, he banks the 20-foot par putt to kind of put it away.
Yeah, so that was a downer in that sense. Did many people, as far as one and done, did many people go with Scheffler last week?
Yeah, he was pretty popular. He was in like the top 4 or 5 most popular picks. I think he was around like 9 or 10% owned. So yeah, that a lot of chalk has been hitting in one and done. So you have a lot of people that have made a lot of money so far. I had Rom in one of my one and dones who made 1.3 mil or something, but again, doesn't help a whole lot when you have 10% of people getting the 3.6 million out of Scheffler.
But it's still the way we have to look at it, of course, is that as long as, like you said, Rom finished third?
Third, yeah.
And Justin Thomas for me finished 4th. So
Correct.
Even though we didn't win, it's a good payday, and eventually we can't win a championship without winning anyway. So eventually, once we start winning, then all these other really good, weeks will make it look that much better when the wins come. That's the way you got to look at it.
For sure,
I look at it.
And your 4th place out of JT, that probably got you close to $1 million, which is nice. For me with Rom getting 1.3 million, I think that's probably about average what people are going to get when they use him, right? Like if people use him at the Masters,
he's always a top 20, top 10 player.
Yeah. So it's fine. I don't think I gained much ground though on the field.
But
getting that 3rd place out of Rom.
Somebody could have taken, I don't know how many did, but somebody could have gone with Colin Morikawa.
He was popular. He was more popular than Scheffler. So that was one of the good things that came out of one and done last week, because a lot of people got burned by Morikawa.
And look, I'm thinking of taking him this week, and I will say he is maybe the most risky of the top players, because you just don't ever know. He's not easy to look at. He doesn't have this historical board that says, when he does well here, or he does well when he's doing this. No, sometimes he'll miss a cut when you totally don't expect it. And sometimes he'll go out and win a major when you have no idea he's ready to win a major. So very tough player to handicap. So whenever you do have a player like that, you're just keeping your fingers crossed. Just don't have a bad weekend. And some had a bad weekend with Colin Morikawa. He was probably the most disappointing player, right?
He was, yeah. It was a typical Morikawa week. The ball striking was not amazing, and then when that happens and he doesn't putt well, he lost over 2 strokes putting. That's when he's gonna miscut. I found it strange that he was so popular last week, because I bet him because he was 25 to 1, and when he's 25 to 1, I'm gonna give him a long look, but I don't think Scottsdale's a great fit for Morikawa. I think a course like this week, Riviera, tougher golf course where par means more, is actually a better fit for Colin.
Yeah, the major problem I'm going to have in going with him, even I might, is that if you look historically at this golf course, at least just the last 9 years, I think it is, every one of those players is has been ranked like in the top 60 that year in driving distance. Meaning this is for whatever reason, you have to have a powers game to win here.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you can't win because Morikawa was second last year, and he has no power game, so he's that close to win.
Right.
So it's not that it can't happen, like you said, because he's so good on tough golf courses, when the cream rises to the top, that kind of thing. So if there's going to be, if I look at Jordan Spieth, bucked that trend many times over the years, winning the Masters and things of that nature. So it can be done. It's just that again, you're just playing with fire if you do take him this week, because he could win or he could miss the cut.
I do think he's going to be much lower owned this week, though, in one and done, which I think is an argument in favor of using Morikawa.
That's a good point. So yeah, you're going to have to try to convince me one way or another which way to go. Let's see, what are we down? Well, I'm down to. I got 5 guys I'm down to. So Morikawa, Jason Day, Sam Burns, Tony Finau, and Adam Scott. Because if I'm ever taking Adam Scott, it's this week. So. Those are the 5 guys I'm debating, and I have a few of them already on my picks. I forgot to send you my picks, but I have them. And we'll go.
I like not knowing your picks. I like learning them as we go here throughout the show. Cool. Yeah, I mean it's another one of these elevated. It's another one of these elevated events with the massive prize pool. So I'm going to the top of the board. I'm considering using Rory here. I do think because of the driving distance, driving is important at this course. I mean, you need a well-rounded game to win here. So that's my issue with Morikawa is his short game tends to be poor, so that can get him in trouble here because you're going to miss greens here. It's one of the hardest courses to hit greens. Greens and regulation percentage here is one of the lowest we get on tour all year. So I'm looking for well-rounded players. I'm considering Rory. He has a good history here. I'm considering Xander. He actually comes in first in my model this week. Played well enough last week. Was sort of disappointing on Sunday, but had a good week overall. And then, as I've been saying for a few weeks here, I'm still considering Max Homa. Has the win here. Awesome in California courses. Kind of outside of the U.S. Open, which is back in L.A. This is kind of the last time to get him in California.
That is the tricky one right there. You pegged it. As I was saying, man, who else am I thinking at for the U.S. Open? Because Homa's in the list. And the only reason Homa's in the list is because of the venue. Because as we've talked about before, guys like Sam Burns, Max Homa, the next step of their maturation is going to have to start playing well in the majors. And they haven't done that yet. But if he's ever going to play well in a major, Max Homa, maybe this is the year. Maybe the U.S. Open at Los Angeles is exactly the venue that you've got to target someone like Homa. So
he holds the course record there.
Does he really?
I don't know. Yeah. So
even better. So there you
I would imagine he's going to be a popular pick there for one and done as well. People are either going to want to use him this week or at that event.
Well, right now, and I've already outlined like targeted players because you have to. We're at that point now in one and done.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably my top guy right now would probably be Scheffler at the U.S. Open. So
okay.
I'm leaning toward. Of course, a lot can change in a few months, but he's kind of home is there, Scheffler's there. So yeah, especially winning on Sunday because we're waiting. He hadn't done anything, Scheffler, as far as winning in a while. So now that he's got the win, that made it a lot easier for me to say, okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna look at him because he's getting close at the U.S. Open. Rory's been on a nice run at the U.S. Open as well over the last 4 years. I think he's been gradually getting closer to winning another U.S. Open.
Yeah, if I don't use Rory this week, I think the U.S. Open is what I'll have him pegged for. I just think driving and driving distance tends to be so important at U.S. Opens, and I think Rory is right there with Rahm as the two best drivers in the world.
Yeah, I got some really interesting. Every week because I can't do this I can't like sit down for like a week and do this because it's like I have so many other things to do. So every week now, I'm going to start to add some historical trends and like put it into like these bios for the players to make it a lot easier. So hopefully like in a year when I'm done, I'll have like every player and what they're best at and what their credentials say as far as, for handicapping. So I started to go over some of them this week, and here's some interesting things I found out. All right. So Rory McIlroy, how about this? The earliest Rory McIlroy has won a PGA Tour event to begin the year was week 9 at the Honda back in 2012. So for whatever reason, and get this, he's won week 11 twice. He's won, others were 18, 19, 24, 25, 29, and 36. For whatever reason, now maybe it's because, these guys, they play that year-end Euro playoff kind of deal right after our playoff, so it goes a little later. Then they stay there for Abu Dhabi and some of these events before they come here. So some of that is that. Now, it's not all the time, but some of it. But I just found that very interesting, that if Rory were to win, say, this week, it would break his all-time record for winning the earliest week on a PGA Tour schedule. So what week are we?
We're close there. I say we're close. Well, Honda's next week.
Yeah. But the weeks change, though. The numbers change.
Okay.
So what week are we?
Right.
What week are we?
It's got to be 6 or 7, right?
Sounds about right. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, mid-February.
Let's see. So.
Oh, now you're pushing me. I was kind of set to use Rory.
Oh, no,
one of my one and done.
You're not going to change your mind because of me. But anyway, so that's one. All right. So how about this? Colin Morikawa has 4 PGA wins. This is an easy one because we all know it. 3 of them have either been a major or a WGC event. And his other win, do you know what his other win was? This is a tough trivia question.
I don't.
Was the Workday charity event that replaced the John Deere COVID pandemic year. And it was played at Muirfield Village. So whenever we handicap Morikawa, we have to at Memorial, we have to include his win. Not that it's set up the same way, but it's still it helps. Anyway, so that was interesting.
That was the year they played that course 2 weeks in a row.
Yes, that was 2020.
They played that event, then they played the Memorial.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you played the Memorial the week after that. That'd be interesting if you did.
I could tell you. I'm guessing you did. Let's see. Where is it? 2020 Memorial. Let's see. 2020 Memorial. Yeah. He came 48th.
Okay, so there you go. All right, so how about this? Max Homa. I bet you didn't know this. Out of his 6 PGA wins, 5 of them came with at least 2 weeks off between events.
Before.
Now.
2 weeks off before.
2 weeks
leading
off.
Up
so
to
he
the event?
basically had 2 weeks to prepare for that event. Do you know the only event in which he did not have any week off that he won?
Was it his win at Farmers?
No, it's at Genesis.
Genesis here.
So that's the one where you're going to go,
okay.
All right, well, then I can't really use that because the only time he didn't need any week off, he actually won here at this event, the Genesis. So this is the only PGA Tour event that he's won where he did not have a week off prior to playing. So I thought that was interesting. Tony Finau, and this is part of the reason why I don't like him this week. We'll get into that, of course, but a couple of reasons is even though he won the Northern Trust, let's remember that was the first event that he won that was really considered like a marquee event. You know, he's won a lot of these little events. And so that's, and then when I see him at 16-1 as like the 4th or 5th pick in a massive field of players, it was the only reason, it was part of the reason why I just couldn't take him this week. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I've had losing bets on Finau enough at 30-1, 35-1, where it's tough for me to pull the trigger when he's sub 20 in a field like this.
Matt Fitzpatrick. Now he won the U.S. Open. Of course, that's great. Let's keep in mind, Matthew Fitzpatrick has still yet to win a regular PGA Tour event on U.S. soil. Hasn't done it
until this week.
See, there you go. So he hasn't done it yet. We know it's going to come, but how about this one? This is a surprise. Victor Hovland. It is 5 PGA events. Do you know he has never won on U.S. soil?
I did know that one. And his wins have all been kind of lower end events too.
Yes, it has. He's won 2 Mayakobas and 2 Heroes. And he won the alternate Puerto Rico event for the WGC. That was actually his, I think that was his first one, the Puerto Rico event in 2020.
It was. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that one. And 4 of his PGA main wins came because of Mayakoba and Hero came November, December. So, you could say, well, is that That's kind of why, to tell you the truth, I'm sort of holding Hovland, even though he's played very well here. I'm sort of holding Hovland. I'm thinking about maybe the Open Championship, because he's played well at the Open Championship, and again, he seems to play well in these other events. He's got those other Euro events that he's won as well. So, for whatever the reason, he seems like more of like an international type of guy that just feels more comfortable when he's not in the U.S. When, I don't know, he'll get over that because he's too talented.
Yeah, he's the guy where the short game stuff really worries me this week. And I know he's done really well here in 2 starts, 5th and 4th. But man, if he gets in any trouble, I don't trust him around the greens, and the numbers kind of bear that out.
And then the last one is, we are in the midst of a streak still, Jon Rahm, because Jon Rahm has won 4 out of his last 8 events. Keep in mind, Rahm had won 4 out of 6 at the time. So Scheffler last year won 4 out of 6. Jason Day is the other that won 4 out of 6. He did that in 2015. So right now, Rahm, if he were to win, that would be 5 out of 9. And you have to go back to Rory, did 4 out of 9 back in 2012. DeChambeau, 4 out of 9 between 2018 at the end and 2019 in the beginning. So it can be done, but it's just a very rare kind of feat, especially when you're considered the odds-on favorite of the event like Rahm is this week. And then you got to look at Scheffler. And I think Scheffler, tell you the truth, if I was thinking of taking one of the top 3, I'd probably go back to Scheffler. I don't have a problem taking him to win back-to-back. He won back-to-back last year, so I think he could do it. I'd rather take him at 11-1 or 10-1 than Rory or Rahm, even though I know you're siding with Rory.
Yeah, Rory for one and done. If I was to bet one of those 3, I'd probably go Rory as well, because Rory's kind of right there with Scheffler in terms of betting odds, right? I think they're the same, or
they're right
Scheffler's
right
like 1.
To each other, yeah.
Yeah, Scheffler's 1 point higher, maybe 11-1. Yeah, Rahm's still getting the respect as the best player in the world at 7.5 or 8-1, whatever he is. Just amazing consistency. I didn't even feel like he played well last week.
Who's that?
Like for Rahm. For Rahm's standards, I didn't think he played that well. And then you look up and he finishes 3rd.
Yeah, that's scary, no question. As far as, what do you think about, we get into this every week. You can check it out by ordering a subscription at golfstats.com. We have the code that you can use, the special code on the description area of this show. So please use that. And if you look into it, we have where winners come from. Well, this is an event that you better get off to a good start. If you look at it, like even over the last 7-8 years, there's only, there's 3, 4, 5, 6 of the last 8 winners of this event started either first or second after first round. That's pretty. That, again, shows you it's a tough golf course, and you better get off to a good start. And the same thing when you're, and even worse, of course, round 3. I mean, if you go down, I mean, I can go down. I'm just scrolling, and I don't even. I mean, I go all the way down to like 1970, and I'm going to count the number of players since 1970 at this event that have won that weren't first or second going into the final round. Okay, we've got 3rd, 7th, 3rd, 9th, 3rd, 10th, 4th, 6th, 6th, 7th. That's 10 since 1970. That's 50-something years.
And they were all inside the top 10 at least.
And they were all in the top 10, and the majority of them, what was that? So that'd be 40, whatever, were either first or second. So
yeah, it's just, again, it's tough golf course. You're not going to go out and shoot a 62 on Sunday to make a big charge. You kind of got to be there.
And we'll talk about it Masters Week, but that's the strangest stat that we'll get to that week that I've always been intrigued by. I think that's the reason I got into this in the first place, the whole where do withers come from. Because I couldn't believe how rare it is to come from behind and win at the Masters. It makes no sense to me because of how many holes there are at the Masters where you think you could get hot, eagle this, eagle that. And yet over like 30 years, 40 years, if you're not like the first last two pairings, you're not winning the Masters in the final round.
Yeah, that is surprising because, like you said, on the back nine, there are so many holes where you could get 2 or even 3 shot swings. Then you factor in just the pressure of playing in the final group at the Masters. That's surprising to me.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here, right now, and I'd say it's extremely similar to Riviera, like
By the way,
since
it's funny.
1970.
It's funny you brought up the Masters. There's a lot of crossover between winners at Augusta and winners at Riviera. I think they're similar type courses where you kind of, again, you need to be good at everything. You need to be creative around these greens. You need to be able to work the ball both ways. So I do think targeting guys that have played well at Augusta, could be a pointer for guys who are going to play well at Riv.
Okay, so I tell you what we'll first of all do is take a look at. I'm just going to flash them up on the screen, and what we're going to flash, of course, is going to be your stats for this week. And normally we're going to have the last 5 years course history, who's been best scoring. So let's see. Let's go ahead and get those in here right now, and then I'll ask you to talk about them. So there they are: top 10 course history, last 5 years, and then hold off, and I'll let you explain the other one. You can see it right there if that's for the past year. Okay, so explain what is it? Strokes gained (TOT) on difficult courses are.
Yeah, it's just strokes gained total. So who scored the best on difficult golf courses. That's when the scoring conditions are deemed difficult by Fantasy National. Which I think is what this is going to be. You look at, I think Neiman won this last year, 18 or 19 under. But you look at the historical winners, and they're in the mid-teens. I think there was a winner at -6 even. But usually you're talking -10 to -14, somewhere in there.
That surprises me.
Yeah, so looking at who does best on those types of golf courses, which I do think is predictive. You kind of need to be a certain type of player. Again, you need to have that well-rounded skill set. I think saving par is important on courses like this, these tough golf courses. So I definitely think this list, these top 10 guys, and there's no major surprises. I guess except Keegan Bradley coming in at 9 on tough golf courses. And I did give him a look this week, but I think there's no major surprises. Maybe it's the order in which guys appear. Like you see Rory at 1, Rahm at 10 on difficult courses. That might be a reason.
I tell you what,
if you are
the guy that did surprise me was Burns, because we just talked about it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
For some reason, he his results have not actually been very good on tough golf courses or majors. Now maybe tough golf courses over majors, because the majors have been bad. But maybe the tough golf courses, maybe there are a few in there that he's done a little bit better at, because he's only been really playing for 2 years, really?
Yeah.
2+ years.
Yeah, that's a little surprising. I think of him more as like a lighted up birdie fest type of guy, but he has won twice at Valspar, and that tends to be a tournament that you win in the low teens.
Yeah, matter of fact, like you said, Neiman's 19 and Dustin Johnson's 17 in 2017. I don't think that happens very normally here. Instead, You've got 12, 11, 12, 14, 15, 6, 11, 7. So I think I don't know what the average is, but I would probably guess the average is more like 13, 12, 14, maybe.
Yeah. I think that's where we'll be looking this week, be my guess.
And then so I tell you, all right, yeah, and let's also, this is a good time as always to let everybody know that our picks segment and our handicapping segment in general brought to you by playbooksports.com. Playbook experts. You can check them out on their YouTube channel. And Jared is, I know Jared doesn't know this, but he's going to be a special guest one of these days on that show. Chad Summers, who does the horse racing show, our professional horse trainer, will be a special guest in March during March Madness and before the big Kentucky Derby prep races occur. So we're going to do a little crossover action on that channel. These guys like Mark Lawrence have been doing handicapping for 50 years, since almost like we were little kids. So they're like the Hall of Famers of handicapping. So check that out. In the meantime, I tell you what, as always, we'll throw our picks up there and you can take a look at them. And like I said, though, Jared at this point does not know what my picks are, so I guess he's okay with that. Maybe I won't show him my picks then every week. You prefer me not to show you my picks?
Yeah, I like having the surprise on air here.
Okay, so Jared's
exciting.
Jared's goes with 4 picks this week, and I think I went with 6. Did I go with 7 or 6? Well, 6. Almost went with 7, but the problem was that the money situation didn't really work out too much, and we'll get into that as we always do. We're always going to talk about some of the players that we just didn't make our list, and just because they didn't make our list doesn't mean I'm not going to put money on them, because I put money on a whole bunch of golfers each week just in case. Sometimes it could be as little as $1 or $2, and sometimes it could be for $25. But what's your average a week? Budget for golf.
Yeah, I have a really strict process that I stick to, because I think I need to do that, or else I'll get all willy nilly and I'll be betting too many guys. So I bet $50 on this stuff a week, and I price my bet so all my winners pay out between $500 and $600. So if I have a guy that's 50 to 1, I'm betting $10 on him, so he wins me 500. So that's my process for this stuff.
And yeah, that's pretty. It's very reasonable. $200 a month. That's because usually too. Because do you have anything else you're doing between when the football season's over?
No.
Okay.
I'll bet on. I'll do the March Madness stuff, but
okay,
it's just golf for me.
There you go. See, me, it's a little bit different. Me, I'll do March Madness. I don't do a whole lot of college basketball. Like now, I just started to do a little college basketball. That's why I was saying off the air that I hit a couple of good money liners this weekend with Oklahoma State and Northwestern, but I couldn't hit. I actually did it with. I did on Sunday. I did Northwestern money line, Chiefs, and John Rahm was 3 to 1.
Oh,
so I missed out on that. But anyway, So and horse racing, I do that every week. I go to a horse racing show. I try to get too crazy with that, so it's about $30 a week. And then NASCAR starts this week with the Daytona 500. So I do NASCAR every week. So. But I don't do any of the big stuff. I don't do the hockey or the NBA or baseball. A lot of people do. I don't do any of that. So I like to. I especially love the future aspect of the sports that I do. Even it's horse racing. Even it comes into play with that as well. NASCAR, golf. I prefer doing that where if you hit it, you're making something instead of just straight bets.
Yes. Yep.
That's why I also like futures in football or money line bets in college football.
Yep. Yeah, I'll be tuning into your horse racing shows, because I do bet the 3 Triple Crown races at least.
Yeah, everybody that's into sports usually has to get involved in some way, shape, or form with the big ones. The problem with the sport is people can't, they can't get the average fan like yourself to get involved with anything else other than the Triple Crown, or sometimes they can get into the Breeders' Cup. But
if it's a race on TV, I'll bet. I'm not going to.
That's the problem.
Bet a race that I can't watch.
The major network broadcasting schedule for horse racing is not very good, and it's not very easy to follow. Okay, so let's get into it, and we already kind of were, but let's take a look actually at some trends that I came up with for this event, and again, we talked about the power hitter aspect. The last 10 first-time winners made an average of 7.1 appearances before winning here. That's not a surprise, because this is, as we said, a tough golf course. So you want to have some experience on this golf course before winning. Adam Scott, when he won in 2005, was the last player to win this event, making his first appearance. Again, not a surprise. And also the last to win here, making less than 3 appearances. So anybody who's either in their first or second appearance here, not the likely chances of them winning, not very good.
That's interesting, and it goes back, I think, to the Masters correlation again, because it's the same deal at the Masters. I mean, first timers do not win there; they don't. It's
always
do well.
Fuzzy Zeller. Fuzzy Zeller's name every year.
Yeah. Now, again, I think it's a tough course, and it's a course with intricacies that you kind of need to learn, especially I think the green complexes and around the green. I do think experience is definitely something to look at this week.
Now, this is a little surprising. Only 2 winners in the last 10 have been ranked in the top 10 before winning here. Dustin Johnson, 3rd in 2017, and Bubba Watson, 6th in 2016. Of course, Bubba loved it here, winning 3 times. 6 of the last 12 winners, though, ranked outside the top 90 before winning here, including 224, 241, and 297. So what do you think about that comparison?
Yeah, it's surprising. I mean, I looked at it from an odds perspective. Only one of the last 10 winners was 25, was under 25 to 1, less than, and then 4 of the last 5 winners were 50 plus to 1, higher than 50. Now those fields weren't as strong as this week, but they're pretty strong. It's an invitational, it's Tigers event, like they're good fields. So that I usually lean towards the studs at these tougher golf courses, but something about Riviera, maybe. And it is because it's a unique course that you need experience at. Something about it lends itself to more longer shots coming in.
And keep in mind, too, even the last year's Neiman win, he was ranked 32nd at the time. He was making his fourth appearance, and he had never had a previous top 40. So he kind of bucked a few trends, but he was playing well coming into the event. Yep. And even Homa, I'm not sure. Did he only have one? I think he only had one top 5. And then he won, and then he was 10th last year. So coming into the win, he had only one previous solid year, but that's okay because at least it was a top 5 and it was the year before. And Homa was a young enough player where he was just getting into becoming the player he is today.
Yeah.
So what it tells you is, I do agree with the appearances, but what it does tell you is don't necessarily worry about whether or not the player has had any good experience here. He could just have a good week, and it could, for whatever reason. But of course, I think what's great is that the parity is so strong nowadays that it's a lot easier for us to take a look at some of these players that are outside that 25 to 1 you're talking about. There's tons of good players at 35, 50, 60, whatever, that we can go, yeah, let's grab those guys, which is basically what I think we've done.
For sure.
Only one of the last 5 winners ranked inside the top 30 before winning. That was Adam Scott in 2020 when he was ranked 14th. The others, or 3 of the others, included 91st, 100, and 117. Now, you were mentioning the Masters. I don't know if this matters, but 9 of the last 12 winners played at Torrey Pines. And that's another, tough golf course. And the last 7 winners had already had a PGA Tour win under their belt before winning here. And that's not surprising. Okay, so those are some of my trends. Now let's get into the picks and the overall odds. We talked about some of those. So again, at the top, Rahm, Scheffler, McIlroy. You would go with McIlroy.
I would, and I actually briefly considered betting Rory, which I never bet guys that low. I got to be honest. I don't love the board this week. Like nothing stuck out to me as like an awesome bet. So I was considering just basically putting it all on Rory at 10 to 1. But I opted against that.
There's the thing is, like you said, there's not like that immediate yes, but there's a lot of good choices, and that's kind of hard when you got a lot of good choices to go with. So
yeah, definitely like good choices. I guess what I mean is none of the actual odds stuck out to me as being like awesome numbers. Like again, I thought last week
like a bargain. You mean
at 25 to 1? Yeah, Justin Thomas was what I got him at 22 to 1 last week. There's just nothing that like sticks out like that to me. But yeah, like you said, there's definitely a lot of individual players to like, even if the odds aren't awesome.
Okay, yeah. I mean, well, we can go into, let's start getting into now. You mentioned Thomas. You got Thomas, Schauffele, Finau between 14 and 16 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I was gonna play Finau, and then I was crunching my field, and I said, you know what? I played Thomas because I had a little bit of a gut feeling on him last week, plus his course history, and it worked. And I'm just going to stick with him because he doesn't have the history at this course that he has at Phoenix, and I get that. But he played really well after a slow start last week. So I'm not going to jump away from him to go with a guy like Tony Finau that's the same odds as he is. I'm just not going to do it.
Yep.
Justin Thomas is just 10 times the player Tony Finau is, and I'm getting better odds with Justin Thomas, or at least similar odds. So that's the reason I decided to stick with Thomas and bypass Finau, even though if anybody wants to take Tony Finau, I'm not going to walk you off that horse because, like I said, I'm even thinking about taking him for one and done.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I'd say that like Thomas at this point is a much better player than Finau or even Xander, but Thomas just has the winning pedigree. Like
Wow.
he's proven that he can
Yeah.
win these golf
Yeah.
tournaments. You talk about top 5 odds. Finau might have the same top 5 odds as Justin Thomas, but if you ask me, which one of those guys is going to win, I'm putting my money on Thomas. Good fit for him here too. Again, around the green, very important at Riviera. JT, one of the best around the green players in the world, and Poa is his best putting surface by a pretty wide margin, which these greens are Poa at Riviera.
Yeah, taking a look at it, it's strange that it's surprising he's not a little bit better here, but he does have 3 top 10s out of 8. He's got a runner-up in 2019, and he has 3 top 5s over his last 6 coming into this event. Finau, meanwhile, the reason we're talking up Finau, he has similar to JT, 3 top 15s out of 8, but 2 of those were runner-ups, and he's on a run right now of 6 straight top 20s with 4 top 10s and a win. He was 14th last week. So that combination of his runner-ups here, he was on your list as far as playing really well on this golf course over the last 5 years. That's important, and then of course he's playing well. So that's why it was easier for me to kick him off the weekly pick number. But yeah, but here's the thing with Finau. Maybe you agree with me, but it's tough to pick Finau where to put him on one and done because he's actually got a lot of different places you can go with. Unfortunately, dollar-wise, we talked about it. He might be better off taking him at a smaller event where you feel, you know what, it's not going to be big money, but it's a smaller field. He's better in those things. He's had good histories at some of those locations, and a win's a win. Why don't I just do that? So that's the thing that if I don't take him this week, that's kind of my strategy because he won 3M Open last year. He's good at Colonial. He's won Rocket Mortgage last year, and we can go down the line with a few others. So what about you?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I do think Finau's good enough to win a major or win one of these elevated events. And to me, he's playing as well as he ever has over the last 12 months, even more specifically over the last 3 or 4 months now. I do think this is a good course for him. He's long off the tee. He has an underrated around the green game. It's always just the putting with Finau. And if you're trying to decide where to use him for one and done, bent grass greens are pretty easily his best surface, which tend to be the Northeast tournaments when we get up there. He's kind of an average putter on POA, so I think I'm leaning towards saving Finau for one of those tournaments that are on bent grass greens. Maybe it's the PGA Championship at Oak Hill over by me here.
Really? Okay, I'll note that PGA Championship because if we're looking at one major, then that would be the major for Tony this year.
I think so.
Okay,
yeah, I think so.
Cool. All right, let's move this along now. Homa, Morikawa, and Cantlay are all in the same stratosphere there. So Morikawa is on my list, as I mentioned. You went with Cantlay. Hey, congratulations, by the way, on some awesome handicapping last week. They weren't wins, but we talked about it. Tony Finau, not a great history. One good week at Phoenix. Sam Burns, nothing. And they both played really well last week. So that's why I like the contrast between your handicapping strategies and mine because we don't usually pick the same players. We have completely different formulas, but they still work nonetheless. So because I did not look at Cantlay. He's not a power hitter. That's number one. He's better a power hitter than you would think. So let me forget. That's not the case. But if I look at here, he's got 5 top 35s and 7, including the last 5 years, 3 top 15s, 1 top 5. He was 33rd last year. The main reason I didn't like him this week was because of the fact that 2 reasons. One, I don't like the way he's trending. He missed the cut last week. It's another bad sign because he's never won an event when he's coming off a missed cut. That's kind of why I stayed away from him. But like I said, he surprisingly, sort of like Jordan Spieth, who's gotten a lot better in the power game. He's surprisingly a little bit more of a power hitter than you think.
Yeah, Cantlay is 37th in driving distance over the last 12 months. So he's not one of the top guys, but I think you said top 60 is kind of where you want guys. But he's in there. And listen, I hardly ever bet Patrick Cantlay. I can probably count on one hand how many times I've bet Patrick Cantlay. To me, 25-1 is pretty good value on him compared to some of these other guys in this range we're talking about. Like you said, I did miss the cut last week. It was his first missed cut since the PGA Championship back in May. He followed up that with a third place finish at the Memorial, so he can bounce back. Again, I've talked about I want well-rounded players at this golf course. I don't want guys that have a clear weakness in their games. To me, Cantlay does not have a clear weakness in his game. He gains strokes long-term, off the tee, approach, around the green, and putting. Fifth in course history here. That includes 5 straight cuts made. 4 of those were top 17s. He's gained off the tee in all 5 of those last 5 appearances at Riviera. Gained on approach in 4 of the last 5. So it's obviously a course that he likes. And again, I think he has the game to win it, and I like him at 25-1.
Yeah, I was just disappointed and so far have been disappointed in his year so far. Because he didn't play well at Century. He did not play as well as we thought he was going to play at a very bad golf course at American Express. And then he missed a cut last week. He was never in it last week. So, but like you said, there are bargains out there. He's 5th in the world for a reason. And he's 25-1. And he's played well here before. Okay. Then we've got, by the way, Morikawa. Just the thing with Morikawa is the one thing, like I said, I'm a little bit worried about whether or not his game overall is power game. But again, I think he's more of he's like Spieth. I'm looking at, when I look at that kind of stat, I'm going to eliminate a lot of the other guys like the Keegan Bradleys or so, but I'm not going to eliminate great players like Spieth or Morikawa because they're the type of guys that can buck those trends. But that was his best finish by far. He's made all 3 cuts here, and the miscut last week was really out of nowhere, to tell you the truth, because he was playing so well. So. All right.
Yeah, I gave Morikawa a long look at 22-1 as I usually do if he's in that range. I'm not worried about the distance off the tee. Again, my only concern would be the around the green stuff. He was good around the green when he came second here though last year. So again, maybe he's figured something out at this course. He has. This will be his 4th time playing it now, so he has the experience we're looking for.
Isn't he a California player?
Yep.
Okay.
He is.
So that
he won it was the PGA Championship he won in San Francisco there.
Okay. So so that's and he does have a win in his career following a miscut. Okay, then you have Hovland, and we can take a look at some other players like Burns, Spieth, Young, Zalatoris. So out of that group, again, Hovland is I can understand why anyone would like him this week. He's played twice, top 5 both times. So I completely get that. Again, we talked about some of the other, if you're talking about a winning kind of deal, whether this would be the week that he could do it, but why not? Why do you think that, when you take a look at Hovland, why do you think that, like, would you, because you didn't pick him, I didn't pick him, yet he's got 2 top 5s here and two appearances, so he's done nothing wrong here, so why do we stay away from Victor Hovland?
Yeah, he's just a guy I don't bet very often. I think part of it is because we said he just hasn't shown it in one of these big events yet. His wins are kind of the sub-field events. And I think more specifically for this week, it's the around the green stuff. Around the green is more important this week than it is in your average tour event. And, Hovland is still a below average around the green player.
And again, maybe unusual that he finished top 5 both years here, but okay.
And he lost strokes around the green both of those years. He was just so good off the tee and on approach.
So basically what that's saying is he's got to continue to be very good in those other ways, or else he's not going to have a chance. So
yeah, I'm not even sure he can be much better than he has been off the tee and approach. He needs to, probably, save a couple of those shots around the green that he hasn't if he wants to win.
Burns and Spieth are on my picks list. I've already taken Spieth in my one and done. I'm thinking about Burns because Burns is another one of those players we said, do you save him for the Valspar? But then again, everybody probably will. And another event, I forget which one it is that he won there. So there's a couple of easy events, but if there's a difficult course, maybe this is it. Because if you look at it too, and this is what I also try to handicap as if I have time, and I had a little bit more time, and I'm trying to do that, trying to get like you and handicap these events on Sunday instead of Mondays. So if you look at it, he's got 2 missed cuts here, and only 2 top 25s and 1 top 5. The thing to keep an eye on, though, is that when he came into these events, he hadn't actually played well in the events and in the times that he was not didn't have a good result on this golf course. So in other words, last year he missed a cut here, but coming in he had back-to-back missed cuts. A couple of years ago he finished third. He came in here with 3 straight top 40s, 2 top 25s. So it seems like when he's playing well, he could play well here, and he is playing very good again. He's trending in the right direction, and like that's why I'm thinking, do I risk taking him on a tough golf course, which he's never won before, or do I save him for one of the easy ones?
Yeah, Burns is definitely playing well. He's gained in all 4 categories in each of his last 2 events now, 11th place and the 6th place. POA is his worst putting surface.
Okay.
But he's gained strokes putting in 3 of his 4 appearances here. So he has done well on these greens. The ball striking hasn't been good here. Like you said, it has been lately. So I think for me, it's not a spot to use Burns in one and done. I think there will be better spots, but I have no qualms with betting Sam Burns this week.
And then you take a look at Spieth, and I think that 6th place finish last week is a strong indicator that he might be ready to win again. We've kind of been waiting for that, and now maybe it's possible. Yeah. I love the odds at 35-1. And like I said, he's a much better power hitter than he was early on in his career, so that is not an issue. He has 6 top 30s in 10 appearances, 2 top 10s, and 1 top 5. So look, if you have him and you have an availability to take him at one and done, you might want to consider him, but I've already taken him, so that's why it was no problem me putting in my weekly picks.
Yeah, Spieth came 6th last week, and he lost strokes putting. He was unbelievable with the irons. It was his 3rd best tournament in terms of strokes gained approach of his entire career. It was an
strange. So his putter's really been holding him back the last few weeks.
Really? Yeah, he's lost strokes putting in 2 straight events. But I wouldn't worry too much about that.
No.
If he can continue that iron play, he will definitely be in the mix this week.
And then our boys Young and Zalatoris are playing. Of course, Young played here last year. Only appearance finished 2nd. Zalatoris. Look, we just need to see Zalatoris play a few events and not miss out and all that stuff before we take him.
Yeah, I mean, you can get 40-1 on Zalatoris, which is really, really tempting to me. I'm probably just going to not allow myself to bet it because I still don't think he's fully healthy. He did an interview on the No Laying Up podcast, like an hour-long interview, and he was talking about how he actually has had to change his swing a little bit to try to prevent the back issues from creeping up again. So I need to see it, so at least some signs from Zalatoris before I bet him. But 40-1 is tempting. This is the type of course you want to bet Zalatoris at.
We both have Fitzpatrick and Day in our picks. Fitzpatrick 5th 2 years ago here, 30th before that. Did not play last year. Only 1 top 5 though in his last 8 overall. 29th last week. And Jason Day, if you look at him now, this is not a good golf course for Jason Day. But the reason why I would be willing to forget that, as I said, Joaquin Niemann did not play well here either and won last year. That's number 1. Number 2, he's playing very well because part of that is he's healthy. He's trending in the right direction. In this year's events, he's 18th, 7th, and now 5th. So all of that and coming to a golf course I think if there's a player that can disregard his previous history and you're getting 40-1, I can see both Fitzpatrick and Day being pretty good bargains to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's strange that Day hasn't played well here because he's always been one of the better around the green players in the world, and POA is his best putting surface. So it seems like it should be a pretty good fit for him.
Well, here's the point, but let's keep this in mind. He's only made 2 appearances here since 2012.
Yeah, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. Then he's playing awesome. I think Jason Day is going to win this season.
I agree.
He's playing too well not to. I bet Fitzpatrick 40-1. I just think that's too big of a number. This guy won the U.S. Open 8 months ago, and he's twice the odds of your Homa in that tier. There are concerns. I guess there's reasons why Fitzpatrick is 40-1. He has lost. He's not playing well. He's lost strokes on approach in all 3 events so far this season. He had that neck issue that they were talking about at Pebble Beach. Didn't play well there, obviously. What I like though is last week, the finish wasn't great, but you look at his round by round, he went 70 in round 1, 71 in round 2, 73 in round 3, shot a 65 in round 4. Was 3rd in strokes gained tee to green in that final round. So I'm hoping he kind of figured something out. Maybe the neck issue is behind him. Fitzpatrick, third best in this field on difficult golf courses. He won the U.S. Open. That was obviously a difficult golf course. And 30th and 5th in his last two appearances at Genesis, including that 5th place in 2021. He gained strokes across the board, all 4 categories in that event. So I do think it's a good course fit for him.
Sounds good to me. All right, and then we've by the way, the only other player that I was surprised of his odds were Matsuyama. He's now 50-1, Matsuyama, and I know he's not playing well, but he's had a pretty good history here, so there's nothing wrong with that. But I was surprised that he's up to 50-1 now. That's a big number for Hideki, and I don't think I've ever seen him at 50-1. Well, I know he had a cold spell. I shouldn't say that, like a couple years ago. Other than that, we have been talking about he's always like 30-35-1, but now 50-1. So,
yeah, I might have to look at that and give it a roll of the dice. I mean, that's just too big of a number for Hideki. We talked about Spieth though. It was his third best tournament in terms of strokes gained approach last week. It was Hideki's second worst of his entire career last week. The irons were just horrible, so that's concerning.
Yeah. And last week was a great venue for him. This one is just a good one. So, okay. Also, you got Fowler and Scott at 55 in that range, and I did not put Fowler. Wait, I totally forget even my own picks. Did I put, because I was close to putting both of them on there, and I think I knocked Fowler off of my picks. Yeah, I did. So, but I'm still going to take him this week, but not on my picks. And Scott either. Actually, both of them did not make my picks, but I like them both. I mean, why not? Again, if you're ever going to take Adam Scott, this is the week, especially for one and done. It's his best golf course. He's winning 13 to 14 cuts, 10 top 20, 7 top 10s, 5 top 5s, 2 runner-ups, 2 wins, and he's actually playing okay. He just doesn't play a lot, so you kind of forget about him. And then Fowler, meanwhile, as we've been saying for the past few weeks, is just getting better and better, slowly and surely. He's got 5 top 35s in his last 7, 3 top 10s, a runner-up. He was 10th last week. He's just been okay here, though. That's part of the reason why I figured I'm saving him for this Florida swing, because he's very good in Florida, and I'm thinking of using him. If he continues to play well, I might just use him as a one and done in one of those Florida events.
Yeah, definitely playing well. This isn't a course that just seems like it would suit Fowler that well. And like you said, the results haven't been that good. He struggled putting here. He's not a good putter in general. So, between these two, I would definitely prefer Adam Scott, just, based on that course history.
And then rounding out, as far as the rest of our picks, we take a look at, again, you only had 4. And your last pick, your big long shot, was actually, you took him last week too. So you're hogging up on Luke List, but I was thinking of taking him as well. So we both like Luke List, 200-1. He's been dropping, so keep an eye on that. Maybe by the time you even watch this podcast, it might even be dropping further than that. Why not? He's got 4 top 30s and 7 appearances here, 1 top 5. He's got the power game. So a lot of things that I really like about him that trend well here. He's matter of fact, we talked about the Farmers Insurance deal. He's defending champ this year of winning it last year, so he's played well at Farmers. So yeah, I think if you're looking for a really good 100-1 or longer long shot, I don't think you could find a better one this week than Luke List.
I mean, he's 12th in my model, so I mean, 251 for guy 12th, because he's 4th in this field. This is over the last 12 months. He's 4th in this field off the tee. He's 21st on approach, and he's not bad around the green. He's 53rd around the green. As always, it's the putting with Luke List. That was the problem last week. He missed the cut on the number at the Waste Management, but he gained strokes off the tee and on approach. He lost 2.5 strokes putting. And again, this is a week where I wouldn't get too crazy with long shots. I think it's very likely going to be one I top 20 players that wins this.
Long shots have won here, as we said, so.
True. None of them 250-1. But,
well,
I do think
he's 98th in the world, so he fits that model.
I think he should be. He should be 100-1 or 150-1. I think 250 is pretty good value.
Maybe you know what? It would surprise me if he got down to like 150 or 125 by Wednesday. And then my last long shot is Hadwin. He played well last week, of course. He's got 3 top 20s last 4, 2 top 10s, 10th last week. And keep this in mind, his only win ever on the PGA Tour happened in March. So this is the time of year that might be good for him. And he's got 6 top 35s out of 8 appearances here with 1 top 10. So, again, it doesn't have the power game to win here, but that's why, as Jared said, yeah, there's not a whole lot of long shots that,
Yeah.
I was thinking of Wyndham Clark at 80-1
Yep.
because he's played well here before. He's got a good power game. The only reason I decided against it was because, and by the way, he's got 2 top 20s and 1 top 10 here and 2 appearances. It's just, again, I only had so many players that I could put into my picks, but I'm definitely putting a couple of bucks on him at 80-1 this week.
Yeah, the other 3 like longer shots I considered were Wyndham Clark for the reasons you mentioned. Keegan Bradley, who I think we talked about, but he's playing really well, and he's good on difficult golf courses. And then Taylor Moore, I looked at
Taylor
too.
Moore, that's
another
our boy,
guy
man. He's coming.
Playing very well. Awesome POA putter. He's one of the best POA putters in the field. So I think he's still like 130, 150 to 1. So he's worth a look.
Absolutely. Last 3 events this year, 11th, 15th, and 14th. He played here for the first time last year, finished 21st at 7 under par. That's impressive for a young kid playing at Riviera for his first time. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up. We will be back again next Monday night, and then we're going to try to record these shows. Last week we did it on Monday because of a schedule change. We decided maybe that's the way to go. So this is, of course, being recorded on Tuesday afternoon. We're going to return to Monday, and we're going to try to stick with Monday nights. So then you can look out for these shows next week on Monday nights. And then we're also going to be introducing a special guest next week. Hopefully we'll have him on from time to time. Of course, Jan will also make her appearance sometime real soon, Jan Stevenson. But next week, when we preview the Honda, we'll have a special guest who will join us to open the show. And why not? The more the merrier. And then we'll get on to our usual business of handicapping the Honda and recapping, which we hope will be a lot more of an exciting weekend this weekend than trying to catch Scotty Scheffler, which was a pretty hopeless cause just a couple of days ago. So, Jared?
Yeah, I think Riviera will deliver a good finish. And then excited for the Florida swing. Those are really fun golf courses. A lot of water in play on those, so you can have some blow up holes. But it's fun if your guys can avoid the water.
What is that? That's Honda. Is it then Bay Hill?
It's API. I think it's API, Honda API, and then the Players.
Awesome. Okay. That's a pretty awesome 3 in a row in Florida. So looking forward to it. Jared, appreciate it as always. Great job. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. See you, Greg.